Required viewing. Berserk. As to not be clickbait, the title of this video is required viewing. Let me quantify that real quick. So, we all have our own subcategory of a subcategory in our heads. It's required viewing. It's the thing, and you might not know you have this category yet, that has these three traits. So, required viewing means 1. It's on nearly every list that has a recommendation. Mostly to new people coming. A good example of this that I can think of off the top of my head is Evangelion. It's on every recommendation for new fans to anime. It becomes required viewing. 2. It is usually one of a kind. Meaning there's not really a good equivalent to it. Lumping into the third trait is it when asking for more like it, you can't really get a good answer. Meaning people will have a few recommendations. The recommendations are never exactly more of it. And those are the three traits. I don't think those are too vague. I think those are just kind of specific enough that you probably have something in your head. You're probably thinking of something. If you're a weeb, anime fan, you're definitely thinking of Evangelion. It matches what this is about perfectly. It fits those three categories. And you probably have another thing that you're thinking about. If not, you need to watch more shit. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. So, we have a definition. That's my required viewing definition. We're talking about Berserk. Berserk fits all those categories. This is not how I made the category, but it fits them perfectly. Berserk is required viewing. It doesn't matter who you are, you're going to find something that you like in Berserk. Shaky cam. And cut. Let me get this out of the way. What is there to not like about Berserk? Everything has its flaws. What is Berserk? What am I getting into? What might I not like about it? Art. Art style, as with all mangas, is pretty subjective. If you're gonna like it, if you're not. I'd say Berserk meets a middle ground between older art styles that had come before it, perfected it, then added its own twist. An aesthetic, if you would. I think that word is overused, though. So I'll try to not really use it a lot. But for all intents and purposes, it's quite an aesthetic. What's there not to like about the art style? Well, like I was saying, you might not. It does look older. I don't think anyone first getting into mangas is in for anything they can't get over. But because it's subjective, you might just not fucking like it. There, I said it. Berserk can look like shit if you don't like that sort of thing. There's a few times that it's jarring. I'd say in the earlier chapters. I'd also say by volume 3, it's kind of different. And the story. Yeah. I will say there's a flaw in Berserk's story. And that's that it's a little too perfect. Whoa. How can that be bad? I don't really like most things that are universally liked. What I mean to say is, I like my own thing. Usually I like stories that have flaws, and I believe that those flaws can make a story even better than if it were written flawlessly. Berserk, for all intents and purposes, doesn't really have plot holes. Everything has a through line. Everything is followed up. There's not one loose end one motherfucker could find in Berserk. If it's in there, it was thought out to the fucking end. Period. What's this mean for you? Does that sound like something that you're gonna get into? My own mother doesn't think Berserk is perfect because it's perfect. Now, she couldn't quantify that in her own words, but that is what she believes. That's what I took away from my mom reading Berserk. And I feel like, even though this is a meme, trigger warning. There's rape in Berserk. If that makes you uncomfortable, don't read it. You cannot get through and skip the parts about rape. There are, to my knowledge, at least 3 parts, key parts in Berserk that have to do with rape. Okay. You've been given a warning. It is graphic. It is just about as realistic as you can get in a fantasy book, in a fantasy world with humans. I don't know. I don't know how to quantify that. I'm sure my psychologist could fucking sit down and tell me what, if at all, realistic about rape victims. I don't know. I'm not the person to answer that. I'm just warning you. And so, what is there to say about Berserk? This is why I made this video. I read it 6 months ago. I've been sitting on it. I've reread it in that time. And by the way, a side note about rereading things, I don't do that. Ever. I've never reread a book in the classic sense of book. Mangas are books, but uh, never reread shit in my life. When I watch a movie, I watch it once. I don't really ever rewatch things. So this is big to me that I reread it. Because I don't do that. But what was I saying? It is hard, very hard, to say anything about Berserk that hasn't already been said. YouTube channels start their careers over Berserk fan theory, literally, and how tight the story is makes this fucking easy. You could, and it has been done, theorize how Berserk will end at its halfway point, which is that right now. By the way, not much of a better time to start Berserk with chapter 360 just coming out. Yeah. People have been theorizing about Berserk since its fucking inception. There's so much to go over. Here's a little tidbit that interested me. Guts and Casca have a child. It's a demon child. I love to think about how important this will be to the story. It gets me every time. And that's just one thing for me. That's probably completely insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but yeah. Love that bit. And I don't really have much to say about Berserk. Refer to the title. Required viewing.